They said she wouldn't survive, a medic, not trained for war, thrust into the chaos of battle with a SEAL team. 3 men were dying. Could she save them? Watch as one woman defies all odds and becomes the lifeline in the most dangerous fight of her life. In the quiet calm of her bunk, Sarah Collins prepared herself for a mission unlike any other. A medic in the U.S. Navy, she was about to join a SEAL team, an elite group of soldiers known for their strength and resilience. These men had survived impossible missions before, but they had never fought alongside a medic like her. As she read through her orders, her heart pounded in her chest. She wasn't just being sent to a battlefield. She was being thrust into the very heart of the storm. That when Sarah walked into the briefing room, the atmosphere shifted. 8 hardened SEALs turned their eyes on her, silent, skeptical, unwelcoming. They had been through it all, fighting together as a unit, and now, here she was, a medic they didn't know, carrying the weight of their lives in her hands. Sarah was no stranger to doubt, but the unspoken tension in the room was palpable. They didn't want her there, but she was determined to prove them wrong. The days that followed were a blur of physical challenges and mental tests. The SEALs were relentless in their training sprints, obstacle courses, and ruck marches. Sarah struggled to keep up, feeling the weight of her pack and the stares of the men around her. The whispers were constant. She wasn't built for this. She wasn't one of them, but Sarah wasn't one to back down. Each time they left her behind, she pushed harder. She wouldn't let them see her fail. It wasn't until a simulated ambush that Sarah had her first real chance to prove herself. As one of the SEALs fell with a simulated leg wound, Sarah sprinted to his side, applying a tourniquet in under 30 seconds. It was fast, precise, and exactly what they needed. When the exercise ended, Commander Briggs gave her the first sign of respect. No words, just a simple nod. For Sarah, that small acknowledgement meant everything. Finally, Sarah and the SEALs were deployed to Afghanistan. The sun beat down mercilessly, and the mountains seemed to swallow them whole. The terrain was harsh, and the silence in the valley was suffocating. Sarah, with her heavy medical pack, kept pace with the SEALs, still an outsider in their midst. But the mission was just beginning, and danger was lurking at every turn. As they moved deeper into the valley, the team was ambushed. The explosion rocked the ground, and gunfire tore through the air. Chaos erupted around Sarah as 3 SEALs went down. In the face of unimaginable danger, Sarah didn't hesitate. She crawled through the battlefield, dragging men to safety. The fight was far from over, but Sarah was determined. She would not let them die. With one SEAL suffering from a chest wound, another with a leg injury, and the third with a head wound, Sarah was forced to make impossible decisions. She prioritized each injury, performing life-saving procedures while under enemy fire. As she worked, the SEALs began to see her not as a liability, but as their lifeline. As night fell, the battle raged on. The SEALs had held their position, but they needed to get out. Sarah, with nothing left in her, continued to move, dragging the wounded men toward safety. She used every ounce of strength to pull them to a Black Hawk helicopter, the sound of rotor blades growing louder. The enemy continued to press, but Sarah refused to stop. Her men were counting on her. When Sarah finally collapsed into the helicopter, the 3 SEALs she had saved were alive, their breathing steady. No medals, no ceremony, just a quiet, unspoken bond. She had earned their respect, and as the helicopter lifted into the sky, she knew one thing: she had proven herself. A quiet moment in the helicopter, as Sarah looks at the 3 SEALs, their eyes meeting hers in silent acknowledgement. The camera pulls back to show the valley below as the helicopter ascends, leaving the battlefield behind. The helicopter finally broke through the clouds and into the sky. But Sarah's journey wasn't over. Her body ached as if every muscle had been stretched beyond its limit. She leaned her head against the side of the Black Hawk, exhaustion pulling her towards sleep. But even as the battle faded into the distance, the image of her team, the 3 SEALs she had saved, remained vivid in her mind. Harris, Ramirez, and Jensen had made it, but the memories of the battlefield and the doubt she had faced would never leave her. Weeks passed before Sarah found herself at a small medical clinic, on base, the wounds of the past mission beginning to heal, though the scars both physical and emotional. It was there, as she checked on her patients, that she was approached by the SEALs, the ones she had fought alongside. There was no ceremony, no accolades, just a simple acknowledgement, a silent nod of respect. But to Sarah, It meant everything though. The SEALs had expressed their gratitude. Sarah was left to grapple with the aftermath of the mission. The battlefield still haunted her, the screams of the men she saved, the sounds of explosions, and the fear of losing them all. She couldn't forget what had happened. But she had learned a hard truth. She had not only proven herself to the men who had doubted her, she had proven something even more important to herself. Despite the emotional toll of the mission, Sarah wasn't finished yet. One morning, while she was organizing her medical supplies, the call came. There was a new mission, and this time, Sarah wasn't just a medic. She was part of the team. Her presence had changed everything for the SEALs. They had seen her at her weakest and at her strongest, and now they knew she would never quit. Asterisk. As Sarah met with the SEAL team before the mission, she saw the same men who had doubted her on the previous mission. But now, their eyes told a different story. There was no need for words. Sarah had earned her place in their ranks. They had seen what she was capable of. They had witnessed her strength under fire. And now, they stood side by side, ready for the next battle. The mission was high risk, but Sarah was no longer the outsider. She had proven herself, not just as a medic but as a warrior. As they moved into enemy territory once more, Sarah was ready. There would be more firefights, more injuries to tend to, but now, she wasn't just surviving, she was fighting for the men who had once doubted her. As the battle rages around them, Sarah reflects on what she's become, a part of the SEAL team, no longer just a medic but a sister in arms. The men she had saved now looked to her as one of their own. And though the danger was far from over, Sarah knew this. She would keep fighting until the last breath, not just for survival but for the bond she had forged with these men. As the days wore on, Sarah began to realize something she hadn't before. The respect the SEALs now had for her wasn't just about the work she did in the field, it was about something deeper. It was the silent understanding that, despite the brutal realities of war, they had all fought together to survive. And in this unit, survival was a shared responsibility. Every man carried a piece of the load, even when the odds were stacked against them. And Sarah had proven herself capable of carrying more than her share. The journey was taking a toll on Sarah. With each mission, the weariness was becoming harder to ignore. There were moments when she doubted herself, when the voices of the past, the ones who had said she wasn't cut out for this life, crept into her thoughts. But every time those doubts appeared, she looked at the men she had saved. Harris, Ramirez, and Jensen. They were still breathing because of her. And that thought was enough to fuel her, to keep pushing forward, even when she felt like giving up. As they prepared for another mission, Sarah couldn't shake the sense of camaraderie that had blossomed between her and the SEALs. No longer were they distant colleagues or skeptical strangers. They were family. They had fought side by side, bled together, and survived when everything seemed to be stacked against them. In moments of quiet, when the chatter of battle faded, Sarah could see it in their eyes, the deep, unspoken bond of trust that had formed. There was no time to rest. A new mission had arrived, this one more dangerous than the last. The enemy had increased their presence in the region, and the SEALs had been called in to stop them before they could destabilize the region further. For Sarah, this wasn't just about keeping her team alive. It was about proving that she was more than just a medic. She was part of this unit, and she would fight as fiercely as any of them. As they made their way to the front lines, Sarah adjusted her pack, checking her medical supplies one last time. She wasn't just going to survive this. She was going to make sure the men beside her did, too. As they advanced deeper into enemy territory, the SEALs encountered fierce resistance. The firefight was intense, but Sarah remained calm. She moved swiftly between the injured, applying first aid, tightening tourniquets, and checking pulses. The weight of the world was on her shoulders, but she had learned to carry it. Each moment was a test of endurance, of skill, and of heart, and Sarah passed every test. The mission was a success, but it came at a cost. Several men were injured, but they had accomplished their objective. The SEALs had taken the enemy position, and the region was safe, at least for now. As Sarah stood among her team, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. They were alive, and they had done it together. For Sarah, that was victory enough. And as she looked around at the men she had saved, she knew they had become more than just colleagues. They had become brothers,